You guys, this book, I am so enjoying this book. I have learned so much about fossils, and I'm really excited to share some of this stuff with you today. Today, we're going to use evidence from this text, fossils, to answer questions about fossilization, and we're going to describe the steps of fossilization using pictures and words. Remember, fossilization is how a fossil becomes a fossil. We have two focus questions that we're working on. What can we learn by studying a fossil? And then, how are fossils formed? This is the question we're really going to be finding some answers to today as we continue to look at the steps for how a fossil is formed. Let's jump right back into our text. Here it is. I'm going to scooch myself right up here. Okay, I've made some words to know. So when we come to those words in the text, we're going to talk about what they mean. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reread this part because I want to refresh our minds about what happened in steps 1 and 2. Becoming a fossil. Some 200 million years ago, a shallow ocean covered what is now California. A fish living in the ocean died and sank to the bottom. Before another animal had a chance to eat it, the fish was covered by a thin layer of sand. Right, that's step 1. That's up here where he died and he sank to the bottom. Over time, layers of sand and mud piled on top of the fish's body, burying it deep under the ocean floor. The skin and soft parts of the fish decayed, leaving only the skeleton behind. So now we're here to step 2, where it's buried a little bit, the soft parts have decayed, we just have a fish skeleton. So now we're going to scooch on over to this page of text where we get into step 3, and I want you to listen carefully for step 3. After millions of years, there were many, many layers of sand covering the fish. We're kind of getting into this picture here. The pressure from the upper layers was so great that the lower layers hardened into rock. Okay, that was our third step. What happened in that step? Well, the fish was covered by many layers of sand. The pressure hardened the sand around the fish. Did you hear anything that tells us if this step happens quickly or slowly? The text says over millions of years. So this step happens extremely slowly. All right. And the fish is now surrounded by rock and hardened into rock. Okay, so let's see here. Let's listen. We just read about that word pressure. The pressure from the upper layers. What is pressure? And I put it over here in our words to know. Pressure is a steady force upon a surface. So if you think of like pushing, but it's not like when you push and then you stop pushing and then you push. It is a steady force. So it's pushing and pushing and pushing and it's not stopping. Okay, let's see if I can even type. I can. Pressure is a steady force upon a surface. Now, I'm going to highlight it and make it a little smaller so it will fit. There we go. Okay. All right. So let's see. We've got that third step. So now we need to kind of read a little bit more on to the fourth step. Okay. So we know the bones of the fish were trapped inside the rock. All right. Here comes the fourth step. As water seeped through tiny cracks and spaces in the rock, it dissolved minerals in the fish's bones. Okay. Seeped. The water seeped. Well, the word seeped means like it spread or flowed gradually. So not too fast. It just slowly the water kind of came in. So let's add that definition there. And I realize it's got a red line after mine. There we go. How about that? It's going to be happier now if I do that, I guess. Okay. So I'll do the same thing for seeped. And before I start typing, I'm going to go ahead and make it way smaller. Okay. So for seeped, I'm going to put in there spread or flowed gradually. Oop. Okay. That's what seeped meant. So the water seeped through tiny cracks and spaces in the rock. As water seeped, as water did that, it dissolved minerals in the fish's bones. Other harder minerals replaced them. The result was a petrified fossil of the fish's skeleton. Wow, so now here in step 4, we've got a fossil, don't we? All right, so let me move on to petrified, and let's talk about what that means. Because take a look there. This word petrified is darker than all the other words on this page. That's called bolded, and it's bolded because it's an important word. The result was a petrified fossil of the fish's skeleton. So petrified means that they became harder, and that to make the fish bones into a fossil by making them harder. So when it became petrified, let me make my text smaller here. Became a fossil. Well, let's say it hardened into a fossil. That's what petrified means. Okay, so we know what pressure, seeped, and petrified mean now. And now that was step 4. So what can we write for step 4? Because we don't want to use all of those words in the text. We'd just be copying the author's words. Let's make it shorter. Let's make it our words. So slowly, because we know this step is happening slowly too. Slowly, water seeped, we could use the word seeped into the rock and dissolved the fish's bones. That would be a good 4th step. Remember, when we're writing these, we want to make sure that we are writing a complete sentence, and you'll know that you have a complete sentence because you have a complete thought. So sometimes it helps to actually say the thought out loud before you write it down for your step. Okay, so step 4 could be that the water seeped. You'll make up your own that'll be really good for step 4, and then you're going to want to draw a picture of how that water seeped in and how it hardened. Okay, and I think that right here is kind of turning in is this step here. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next page. Let's go on over here. Aha, there we are. And I've got some words to know for this page. This is where we're going to find step 5. Step 5 is the last step because we've got a fossil now, but it's deep in the ground. The paleontologists haven't found it yet. So now we're going to read page 20, and we're going to talk about that 5th step when the fossil is discovered. And if you look carefully at this picture here, it says sometimes several fossilized fish or other animals are found together. Finding fossils. Millions of years later, Earth's climate has changed, and portions of the ocean have dried up. Earthquakes altered the landscape, bringing deep layers of rock to the surface. Rocks that were once at the bottom of the ocean are now pushed up to form a mountain range. The surface, and you see I've got that word here. Earthquakes altered the landscape, bringing deep layers of rock to the surface. Yes, let's get a definition for surface. So our surface is like the outside of something. So when you guys go outside and you stand on the ground outside, you're standing on the surface of the earth, the outside of the earth. That's the ground we live and we walk on. Okay, so in that section there, I didn't finish reading yet, but in that section there, it was talking about a lot of changes. What are some of the ways that the earth changes over a long time? What did it tell us here? It says portions of the ocean have dried up. So parts of the ocean dry up. Earthquakes change the surface of the earth. And when there's an earthquake, sometimes a deep layer of rock that might have a fossil in it can come up to the top, to the surface. And rocks that were once at the bottom of the ocean are now pushed up to form a mountain range. Okay, so remember, the earth's surface and the ground changes a lot over time. All right, so where was this fish buried? This fish was deep down in the earth, right? Let's finish looking at this last little bit of text, and this is where this fossil is gonna get discovered. Present-day paleontologists excavating a California hillside are thrilled. They find the perfectly preserved skeleton of the fish that sank to the bottom of the sea all those years ago. So these present-day paleontologists are excavating. Remember, excavating is when they are removing something from the earth. So let's put that definition in there. Get it way smaller. Okay, so the scientists, the paleontologists are out there now, and they are excavating a hillside, and they find our fossil. That is our fifth step. So what we want to say is something about that the surface changed that brought that fossil out so that it could be found. So what could we say? We could say maybe the surface of the earth changed, or something happened that, not the surface of the earth changed, something happened that brought that fossil to the surface, and then the paleontologists found it. They discovered it. That's our fifth step. Now, did that fifth step happen quickly or slowly? Well, it took millions of years again for all of this to happen, because the earth takes millions of years sometimes to have a big change. So that's another step that happened very slowly. Today, boys and girls, you are going to, if you need to go back and listen to some of my video or look at some of the text to do this, you are going to finish making your book with steps 3, 4, and 5. And then make sure you decorate your cover too and put your name. You're the author of this book, aren't you? And you're going to have step 1, step 2. I already saw those last week. So today I want to see a picture of step 3, 4, and step 5, okay? All right, I can't wait to see your books. All right, guys, see you next time.